And then I built a brain interface company where we were trying to figure out, so just like when you buy...
Is this Kernel?
It's Kernel.
Yeah.
So just like you buy a washer and dryer, before you buy it, you don't look whether the door is big enough for it to come through the door. You just know it's big enough because society has engineered standards. When you buy a car, it's like, can you get out the measuring tape, honey? Like,
will it fit in the garage?
Will it fit in the lanes?
They would never make, this is good.
It's going to fit in the lanes. Like, because we build according to engineer standards of what we can measure. But when we can't measure things, we can't build accordingly. So our brains is one thing we can't routinely measure. And so I wondered, if you build a brain interface to measure the human brain, could we build society around our brains, and specifically around the wellness of our brains? And so we built this device, this wearable fMRI. It's like a bike helmet you put on your head, and it's the first mass market
They've done little things with this. Like, I think the reason why phone numbers are 7 digits is because we can remember up to 7 numbers or something like that. I think our like short-term retention is up to 7 numbers. So they have tried to do certain things around the way our brains function. We just don't understand the brain enough.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so interesting. So you understand the brain. We could be walking on the wrong side of the street. Elevators could be moving too slow. It could be too cold in the rooms where we sit. Whatever these things are, you understand the brain and how it functions at the optimal level. You build society around that.
Exactly.
Yeah, what a great hack.
Yeah.
And how do you come to that even idea?
That
dancing.
Exactly. No, it was like, again, I've been obsessed with superintelligence. Like, as a species, we are at a make or break moment as a species. We either like are gonna win big, or we're gonna probably annihilate ourselves.
Do you have examples of how our brain is out of sync with how society is built? Or how
what happened to you? Where were you where your personal brain was out of sync with society, and you're like, this is a problem that needs to be solved? What is that moment? Because that seems to be the catalyst for the company, right?
Yeah, so science begins with counting. When you can count a phenomena, you can engineer it with precision. And we can't count our brain. And so, for example, like when we built Kernel, we were trying to find things we could do to make this intuitive. I thought, I'm gonna do psychedelics with ketamine. I'm gonna use ketamine, which is not a psychedelic. Ketamine is like an anesthesia, and you use it for surgery or whatever, horse tranquilizer. So I did ketamine with this brain interface. And so the question is, people are using ketamine for the treatment of depression. It's also used for a party drug, et cetera. And I wanted to pose this question: what happens to someone's brain when you take ketamine? Because right now, you take it and people are like, how did you feel? What did you experience? And like, well, I was in this different dimension or whatever. But we don't have numbers to explain it. And so if you're trying to use it for the treatment of depression or any other condition, having a quantified framework really helps. Or is this drug going to work for depression? Or is this drug going to work for anxiety? Or like all the thousands of questions we have about our brains. What does this diet do? What does exercise do? What do my friends do to my brain? What does social media exposure? What does, and like fill it in with 1,000 questions. And I wanted to provide an easy, low-cost path where we could pose all these questions and then connect it with AI, where now you've got this closed-loop experience. Like, imagine before you go to bed, you're like, hey, AI, help me get ready for bed. And you give AI like a few thousand sounds, a few thousand images, like, and you
access to your air conditioning,
everything. Your
shades in your apartment.
Exactly.
The music that could make you go, oh my God.
And give it real time, like use the new Sora, OpenAI's new video generator.
Give play it that, whatever show.
And be like, help me get ready for bed. Or help me get ready for this conversation. I'm gonna have a hard conversation with a friend.
And you're also feeding that AI your biological data in real time.
Exactly.
So it's adjusting according to your biological data. As you get deeper into sleep, maybe the volume slowly starts to decrease. Whoa.
Within milliseconds.
So your house is like a living organism that's reacting to you.
Exactly.
And an extension of you.
Exactly. This is the fusion of all intelligence. This is what I'm talking about. That's why Don't Die matters. It's not just about you, but it's about just our entire organisms as species. We're all
don't look at your house as just this shelter. Look at your house as an extension of you. This is, I mean, not to be critical of it, but like, if you're looking at Neuralink as just putting the chip in your brain to change that thing in your brain, it doesn't solve the things that your brain is reacting to in your world. But if everything in your world is not only an extension of you and other people, it's almost how the cells in your body work.
Yeah.
Aren't they constantly reacting to one another? Whoa.
So now it's kind of like an Internet of Things.
Yeah, we're one organism.
Yeah.
Is that?
We're linked.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with this idea of transhumanism?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself a transhumanist?
I've avoided saying yes to any frame to avoid adopting frameworks I may not be familiar with. Like I'm not entirely sure how people understand that word. So like for example, when I started doing this, people were like, "Hey, this is a tech bro or a biohacker," and I said, "Actually, none of those things. I'm a rejuvenation athlete." Because people would look at me, they say, "He's nuts. He's weird. He's eccentric."
Yeah.
But then you look at LeBron James, and no one's like, "LeBron, that's stupid, man. You're going to bed on time. You're eating well.
So
you're
funny.
an
You
idiot."
both spend the same amount on your body.
We do.
Yeah.
And so I'm eccentric and weird, and he's amazing. So just reframe it. I'm an athlete. I'm a professional rejuvenation athlete.
Yeah, that is true, because you can get the negative connotation that goes with some of those framings.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to this. So each apparatus in your house becomes this extension of you and helps optimize you, right? Is that the idea behind this? But
Yeah.
in order to do that, you need to know exactly how your brain is reacting to all these stimuli.
Exactly.
And have you been able to map the brain's reaction?
We've done a lot of emotion work.
This was Inquest. What was the name of this company?
Kernel.
Oh, this is Kernel.
Yeah, this is Kernel.
Okay, there was another one that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, Kernel. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we looked at emotions. We've looked at brain age and response. We've looked at cognitive decline. We did a study around alcohol, for example, where we had a placebo, low and high level of alcohol. And when someone is at the low level of alcohol, they become impaired, but the brain compensates for the impairment. So if you do a behavioral test, you can't tell they're impaired. But if you put the kernel device on, you can see they're impaired. And this is what happens to cognitive decline, that people start losing their minds for decades, but the mind compensates for it. And then it manifests when the brain can no longer do it, which we saw in the high level of alcohol, where the brain became so impaired, the brain couldn't compensate for it. And so kernel could show a mild cognitive impairment long before you start showing symptoms, then you could do something about it. So these are the things, like it sits invisible, but it's really important to know if you're starting to lose your mind, you don't want to wait and find out later on in life.
It's only invisible because we're not measuring it effectively.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why science begins with counting. You
Makes sense.
need to have the data, otherwise you just don't know what's going on.
And is this successful? Is this functioning right now?
It is, yeah. It's in clinical trials for both depression and mild cognitive impairment.
My dad has MCI. Yeah.
So did my dad.
Really?
Yep.
Did he have, did it develop into Alzheimer's?
No, it's still early stages.
Early stages. Does he have the amyloid plaque buildup?
We haven't had it tested yet.
Got you.
Yeah, this is my stepfather. He's pretty resistant to
A lot of these things.
doing much about it, yeah.
Yeah, it gets tricky. And also as the disease worsens, they become increasingly more resistant. But yeah, it's really interesting how...
So this is like the equivalent to people getting full body MRI scans to try to catch cancer before
That's
it even comes
exactly
up.
right.
For the brain.
Exactly
Is
right.
the brain more difficult to reverse aging or prevent decay than other organs of the body?
Ooh.
Each organ, has its own opportunities and challenges. I mean, for example, one thing, I reduced my brain age on one marker by 9 years. And so it's called white matter hyperintensities. And it's like, think of it kind of like a scar tissue a little bit. I had it in large part because I had bad posture.
I read this up on you.
Yeah. And so I did an MRI. I know, it's so uncomfortable, right?
But it's like a very specific posture that you had to find, right?
Yeah, so I did this MRI. I found that my internal jugular veins, these pipes on the side of the neck, that come from the brain out, they allow blood flow. Mine are congenitally small, narrow. So my posture, which was probably like this, further made those veins unable to
Restricted
have
those veins,
Exactly.
so you're not getting the blood flow that
Exactly.
you need. Oh,
So we measured it with
wow.
ultrasound, with MRI, and then I started working on. That's why I worked on posture so hard to optimize for blood flow in and out of the brain. And we measured this, and when I did that, it reduced my brain age on this marker by 9 years.
Wow.
Did you feel immediate difference
Yeah.
in cognitive ability?
I did.
And how did that manifest?
I had a lot of residual brain fog, and I didn't know it was fog. It was
You drink some coffee or you do some sort of upper to kind of push through it, but in
Yeah.
reality, it's just your brain's dying.
Yeah.
You have no blood
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
And I'm curious, and of course, going the natural way is best, but how did you ever consider getting surgery, like putting a stent to just
I did.
increase blood flow?
Yeah, I'm open to it. So stents haven't worked. There's another surgery where it's really a risky surgery because they go in, they slice you up on the neck. There's all these delicate muscles. And so basically no one has a surgery to fix this.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was open to it. But yeah,
How many people do you think have this same type of thing where they're
Man.
they're getting reduced blood flow?
thousands of people have emailed me being like, oh my God, I have been trying to solve this for a decade and like no one has given me answers. I've looked into it and like I've got it too. So it's more common than people think. It hasn't been given a language. It's a very esoteric area of medicine.
Have you ever experienced stress-related breathing difficulties?
I don't think so.
Like almost like a hyperventilation state due to stress? Never heard anything about this.
I mean, I personally haven't experienced it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there
you
goes my
meditate?
question.
Yeah, I have.
Well, how did you fix your posture?
I got so I found a specialist who is a specialist in this given area, and he taught me. And so the easiest way to think about it is imagine you have a string right above your head, and you pull it straight up. And to build these muscles, it takes about 6 months. You can already feel yourself tired.
Yeah.
And so you have to, every day for the first few months, you probably have to remind yourself 200 times. It's constant. And then now it just becomes habitual. But then in my family, we have a culture of posture. So my son was like, Dad's like an AI. He's like this. And so now every time anyone in the family hears, zoop, everyone in the family straight
Pops right up.
pops. And it's just a nice thing for all of us to do because it's so easy to be like, on your phone or like typing. And so just a cultural thing now we have in the family.